My wife was 52. He was 21, and she brought him into my house. My daughter saw them kissing in our living room. She kept it secret for 3 years. I worked 14-hour days to give them everything. They knew the whole time. Now I'm divorcing her. And my daughters? They're crying. But it might already be too late. My name's Daniel. I'm 55 years old, and up until recently, I was the kind of man who believed that if you gave your all to your marriage, to your children, to your responsibilities, then life would reward you with peace and loyalty. I was wrong. I'd been married to my wife, Sylvia, for 25 years. We met when we were both in our late 20s. She had this grounded calmness about her, and I was building my first business from scratch. We clicked. We weren't flashy or loud, but we understood each other. Or at least I thought we did. We had 3 daughters, Emily, Rachel, and Zoe. 23, 20, and 17 now. I raised them to believe in hard work, to stand by their word, and to always come to me if something was wrong. I used to think I was a good father. The kind that shows up to every recital, every meeting, every graduation. The kind that works late into the night so his girls can go to college debt-free. The kind that plans family trips and Sunday breakfasts and still remembers which stuffed animals each one loved when they were little. For 2 decades, I thought we were solid. Of course, life wasn't perfect. We had arguments. We had stress. But nothing ever made me question Sylvia's loyalty. If you had told me a year ago that she would cheat, I would have laughed in your face. She wasn't that type of person. Until a random message appeared in my inbox. It came from a woman I didn't know. She said her fiancé had recently confessed to having an affair years ago with an older woman from his office. He'd gotten engaged and, out of guilt or fear, decided to clear his conscience. She said he told her the woman's name, Sylvia. At first, I thought it was a mistake. There had to be hundreds of Sylvias in our city, but the woman gave me details. Specific dates. Names of co-workers who were aware of the affair. The name of the hotel where it happened. Even our address, because apparently, Sylvia invited that boy to our house. That boy, he was 21, barely older than our middle daughter at the time. I still remember reading those words and feeling nothing, just emptiness. Shock doesn't come as panic. It comes as stillness. Like someone just flipped a switch and the whole world dimmed. But the worst part? The thing that split something in me forever? One of my daughters saw it happen. Not guessed. Not overheard rumors. Saw it with her own eyes. The stranger told me her fiancé confessed that one of my daughters walked in on Sylvia, kissing him in our living room. She was supposed to be in school all day. Instead, she came home early and caught her mother mid-affair. And she kept it secret. All of them did. Once I knew what to look for, the rest came together like puzzle pieces that had been hiding in plain sight. The trip I took out of state for a conference? Planned months in advance. Sylvia had her chance and took it. There were gaps in her schedule that never added up. People she used to mention but suddenly stopped talking about. The way she started acting overly affectionate around the girls, like she was managing something behind my back. It wasn't random. It was orchestrated. And for 3 years, I lived under the same roof with 4 people I thought I knew. 4 people smiling at dinner, laughing during movies, sending "I love you" texts, while I was the only one in the dark. I'm not proud of what came next, but I didn't confront her immediately. I started preparing. I met with my lawyer. Separated finances. Went through every account, every document. My parents once told me, if you both work, don't mix your finances. I never thought I'd be thankful for that advice. But now, it saved me. Our joint account only covered utilities and groceries. Everything else was in my name. The lawyer confirmed what I suspected. Our daughters were all over 18. No custody issues. Sylvia worked full-time, earned well, and had no legal basis to demand spousal support, especially if I could prove adultery. And since my business was incorporated before our marriage, with her having no formal involvement in it, there was a good chance she wouldn't be able to touch it. But even then, it wasn't the legal stuff that consumed me. It was the silence, the lies, the dinners where they all smiled at me, the birthday cards, the college calls asking for help with rent or internships. They knew, all of them, and they still came to me like everything was normal. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. Each morning, I'd wake up at 5, go to the gym, bury myself in work, come home, make small talk, and repeat. I don't think Sylvia noticed the change. She was too busy pretending everything was normal. She talked about vacation plans, suggested we visit Zoe at her school, even brought up renewing our vows. I just nodded. I don't know if she suspected something, or if she thought she'd gotten away with it for good. But that made it worse. The way she could lie so smoothly, lie so easily. The house felt like a stage. The family like actors. And me? The only one who didn't have the script. I was standing in the kitchen the morning I finally decided to break the silence. Sylvia was at the stove making eggs, humming some old tune like it was just another peaceful Sunday. She asked if I wanted toast. I said nothing. I just watched her, watched the way her hands moved like she had no idea her entire reality was about to come crashing down. But I still didn't say it. Not that day. Instead, I texted my youngest daughter, Zoe. I invited her to lunch, just the two of us. Said I wanted to catch up. She agreed without hesitation. She was always the softest of the three, the one who clung to me during thunderstorms as a kid, the one who called me when she scraped her knee or failed a test. If any of them would crack, it would be her. We met at a small diner not far from her school. I ordered coffee. She didn't touch her food. I don't think either of us blinked much during that first 10 minutes. Eventually, I said, "Is there something you've wanted to tell me?" She stared at her lap for a long time. Then, just whispered, "You know." And that was it. Her eyes welled up. She looked like she was 10 again, scared she'd broken something precious. She told me everything. She'd come home from school unexpectedly. There was some teacher strike or scheduling issue. I can't even remember. And when she walked in, she saw her mother on the couch with a man she didn't recognize. They were kissing. Sylvia panicked, threw the guy out, told Zoe it was a stupid mistake, a one-time thing, and thanked her, actually thanked her, for interrupting. Then she begged her to keep it a secret. According to Zoe, she truly believed it was just a kiss, that her mom regretted it, that it would never happen again, that if I found out, I'd leave, and the family would fall apart. And she didn't want that. A few weeks later, unable to hold the burden alone, she told Rachel and Emily. The older two didn't believe it was just one kiss. Emily, my oldest, apparently had a shouting match with Sylvia about it and told her flat out, "If you don't tell Dad, we will." Sylvia promised she would, soon, but always found a reason not to. There was always a crisis, a sick relative, a work emergency, an important exam coming up. Years passed, and nothing. They waited, and waited, until it had been so long, it felt impossible to bring up again. I didn't yell at Zoe. I didn't even raise my voice. I just thanked her for telling me, and I said I'd be calling her sisters that evening. She asked if she could be there when I did. That night, I called Emily and Rachel. We set up a video chat. I don't think they were surprised. Their faces dropped the moment the screen loaded, and they saw Zoe beside me. "I know," I said. She told me. There was a long silence. Then they both cried, apologized, over and over, told me they didn't know how to tell me without destroying the family, that they hated themselves for staying silent, that they thought about it all the time. I told them the truth. I'm hurt, deeply. I'm angry. I feel betrayed. But I don't hate you. I told them I would always love them, that they were still my daughters, that what they did was wrong, but that I understood why they did it. That fear can twist good people into silence. But I also told them I needed space. I needed time, because things wouldn't be the same. Not after this. And then I told them what I planned to do. That Sylvia would be receiving divorce papers the following day. That I didn't want them to warn her. That I needed to be the one to look her in the eyes and tell her it was over. They agreed. The next morning, I packed a bag, called my lawyer, and scheduled the delivery. Sylvia was home when I walked in. She was in the kitchen again, humming. I asked her how her day was. She smiled and said we were out of eggs. Then I said, "I had a very interesting conversation with Zoe yesterday." Her face froze mid-sentence. She started crying instantly, not just tearing up. Full, messy sobs. She kept saying it was a mistake. Just a kiss. That she panicked. That she didn't want to lose me. I stood there and felt nothing. No pain. No anger. Just exhaustion. I told her, "You'll be getting the divorce papers tomorrow. Through a courier. I don't want to speak about this again." She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. And then I walked upstairs, took the last of my things, and left. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to get out of that house. I ended up at a business-class hotel downtown. Booked a few nights. Called Zoe to let her know I wouldn't be sleeping at home. She asked if she could stay with me. Said she didn't want to see her mother either. I agreed. That night, she slept in the spare bed in my suite. We didn't talk much. Just watched TV and sat in silence. Around midnight, I got a message from Rachel. "Can we talk?" All three of us. I told her yes. And that's when we began to rebuild. That night, I sat across from all three of my daughters in the hotel suite. One in person, two on video. The energy was heavy. No one reached for small talk. No one tried to lighten the mood. I told them everything. That the divorce was already in motion. That Sylvia would be served within 24 hours. That I didn't want them to speak to her about any of it until it was done, because I didn't want her rewriting the story, making herself the victim. And then I said something I didn't plan to say. "I still love you. That hasn't changed. But I can't pretend this didn't cut me to the bone." Rachel covered her mouth and sobbed. Emily wiped her face, her voice barely audible when she said, "We wanted to tell you. We didn't want to break you." Zoe sat beside me, silent, eyes red and tired. I told them I understood. That I wasn't excusing it, but I understood. Then I laid out what would happen next. I'd be moving out. I'd get a short-term apartment until the legal side was done. Zoe could stay with me as long as she wanted. And if either of the others ever needed space, my door would be open. Emily asked if I was angry at them. I told her yes, but not in the way she feared. I was angry at the silence. Angry that they let me keep loving a lie. But I wasn't angry at their hearts. They meant well. They just didn't know how to act. We ended the call quietly. No dramatic ending. Just tired goodbyes. The next morning, Zoe and I were having breakfast in the hotel cafe when Sylvia called. Zoe saw the caller ID and hesitated. "Answer it," she said. "Put it on speaker." I did. What came next didn't feel real. Sylvia's voice was shaking, like she hadn't slept all night. She was slurring slightly. I couldn't tell if she was exhausted or drunk. She started begging, saying she loved me, that we were soulmates, that our daughters would never forgive me if I tore the family apart. I let her talk. Then I said calmly, "They already know. We've talked. I'm done." That's when the mask came off. Her voice snapped into something cold and venomous. She threatened me, said she'd take everything, that she'd ruin my business, that she'd tell our daughters I abused her, that she'd make sure I was alone and broke before the year was over. Zoe sat frozen, eyes wide. I just stared out the window, letting Sylvia keep digging her own grave. Then I spoke. "From now on, speak to my lawyer." And I ended the call. Zoe didn't say anything at first, just looked at her plate like she was trying to process what she'd just heard. Finally, she whispered. She sounded like a different person. "She is," I said. "Or maybe she always was." Later that day, Sylvia sent Zoe a message saying they needed to talk. Zoe showed it to me, fear in her eyes. I told her not to respond. Whatever Sylvia was planning, she was spiraling, and nothing good could come from that conversation. I extended the hotel stay, gave Zoe the option to stay as long as she needed. She said she didn't feel safe going home, and I didn't push her. In fact, I called a realtor the next day and arranged for a short-term apartment in the city. 2 bedrooms. Clean. Neutral. Quiet. Somewhere we could both breathe. And just when I thought things couldn't spiral further, they did. Sylvia went nuclear. She called my family. Told them I'd abandoned her for no reason. Tried to spin the story into some midlife crisis narrative. Said I was cheating. Said I'd been planning this for years. But my brother, thank God, wasn't buying it. He called me, calm but firm, and asked me what happened. I told him the truth. Every detail. He didn't even hesitate. "I'm with you, Dan," he said. "I know you. You don't blow up a life unless it's already on fire." The daughters backed me too. They shut down Sylvia's flying monkeys, the aunts, cousins, distant friends who suddenly had opinions. Emily even texted Sylvia's sister and said, "Whatever she told you, it's not the truth. And if you push Dad, I'll tell you what really happened." Sylvia didn't message them again after that. I met with my lawyer again, explained the threats. He told me not to worry. Legally, she couldn't touch my company. The business was incorporated solely under my name. She'd be entitled to her share of the house, shared assets, but not a penny more, especially with proof of infidelity. As for custody or spousal support, there wasn't any. The kids were grown. Sylvia had a job, benefits, and plenty of income. If anything, she'd be the one defending herself. But even with the law on my side, I wasn't celebrating. Because I wasn't just divorcing a woman, I was grieving a whole version of my life I thought was real. I never imagined that healing would feel so directionless. The paperwork was filed. The legal path was set. But inside, I felt like I was wandering through fog, trying to rebuild a life with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, emotionally, at least. I rented the apartment. A clean space in a quiet part of town. Just 2 rooms, a modest kitchen, and a balcony overlooking a small park. Nothing extravagant, just something that felt like mine. Zoe moved in with me officially 2 days later. She didn't bring much, just a few boxes, some books, her laptop, and a hoodie I hadn't seen in years that used to belong to me. I didn't ask questions. I just helped her unpack. We set up her room together, ordered takeout, barely talked that night. But the silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It felt safe. The next morning, I made coffee while she sat at the table scrolling her phone. She didn't look up. Then she said softly, she sent another message. Said I ruined her marriage. I didn't even blink. "You didn't ruin anything. You just stopped protecting the wrong person." Zoe nodded, but I could tell it still hurt. I told her I was thinking of taking a trip, nothing permanent, just a month or 2 away once things settled. I said I needed time and distance to clear my head. She didn't argue, just asked if I'd wait until she finished school. "I don't want to be alone with her," she said. "I won't leave until you're okay," I promised. And I meant it. Later that week, I met with my lawyer again to review Sylvia's response to the divorce filing. She'd retained a lawyer of her own, but the panic in her side's approach was obvious. No attempt to claim the business. No mention of abuse, thank God. Just a plea for a graceful division of assets. The tough talk was gone. The threats, the venom, all vanished. Now she wanted a clean break. And for the first time, I started to believe I might actually get one. But the emotional part? That was a different story. One afternoon, I found Zoe sitting on the floor of her room surrounded by photo albums. Childhood birthdays, trips to the beach, Christmas mornings. The five of us smiling like we were the most normal family in the world. She looked up and said, "Do you think it was all fake?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "No, I think people change. Or maybe they reveal who they always were. But you were real. So were your sisters. And so was I." She nodded slowly, then closed the album. The following weekend, I scheduled an online session with a therapist, not just for me, but for Zoe too, if she wanted it. She declined at first, but after a particularly rough night where she broke down crying after reading another message from Sylvia, she agreed. I think that's when I realized this wasn't just my betrayal to process. It was hers too. Her image of her mother was shattered. Her sense of family, loyalty, trust, all cracked. I watched my daughter mourn someone who was still alive, still texting, still acting like she was the one who'd been wronged. And it lit something in me. Not rage, not revenge, resolve. I reached out to Rachel and Emily again. Told them they could come over for dinner if they wanted. No pressure, just a chance to start over, somehow. They agreed. The dinner was awkward at first, but gradually, we slipped into a rhythm, like a family that had been underwater for too long and was finally learning to breathe again. Rachel asked if I hated their mother now. I said no. I don't hate her, I told them. But I can't forgive what she did either. And I won't pretend it didn't happen. Emily said she still didn't know what to feel. That she missed the version of her mom who used to bake cinnamon rolls and sing in the car. The version who cheered the loudest at her college orientation. I told her that version existed. But she also made a choice. And we're all living in the aftermath. No one argued. That night, as the girls left, Rachel hugged me tighter than she had in years. Emily kissed my cheek and whispered, "You're still our dad." That never changed. And just like that, the ice between us began to melt. A week later, Sylvia finally went silent. No more calls. No more threats. No more half-drunken voice messages crying about soulmates and broken vows. It was like she'd either burned herself out or finally accepted the reality she couldn't manipulate her way out of. My lawyer forwarded her signed documents the same afternoon. The settlement was finalized, 50-50 on joint property, nothing from my business, no spousal support. She kept her car. I kept mine. The house was listed for sale, and the proceeds would be split. And that was that. 25 years of marriage, untangled and reduced to signatures and folders. I didn't go to her. I didn't write her a final message. I didn't even look at the photos she left behind in the cloud. There was nothing left I wanted to recover from her. Not an apology. Not closure. Because the moment I realized my daughters were the ones still standing beside me, that was all the closure I needed. Zoe stayed with me in the apartment. Eventually, she picked a college in another city. I helped her find a place, helped her move, helped her settle in. On the day I dropped her off, she hugged me like she didn't want to let go. "You're the only one who never lied," she whispered. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I had, just by not asking questions sooner, by being blind. But maybe that wasn't lying. Maybe that was just trusting too much. Rachel and Emily started visiting more often. They stopped asking for advice in the family group chat and started calling me directly again. Emily even brought over a guy she'd been seeing, a respectful, quiet type who shook my hand like it mattered. Rachel sent me updates from work, even asked if I wanted to go hiking with her next time she was back in town. We were healing, not back to what we were, but something new and real. The anger, the betrayal, it never disappeared completely, but it dulled. It stopped cutting. It became something I could look at without flinching. And Sylvia? I don't know what she's doing now. She moved out of the city, maybe to live with family, maybe to run from the gossip, maybe to start over like I had to. But whatever her life looks like, it's not my concern anymore. I thought about disappearing for a while, just packing up and leaving. Thailand, Spain, somewhere far, somewhere warm. But I stayed. Not because I had to. Because my girls still needed me. Maybe not like they did when they were little. Maybe not for scraped knees or math homework. But they needed a father who stayed. Who didn't run. Who didn't abandon them even when they made mistakes. So I stayed. I built something new. Quiet mornings. A book beside the coffee mug. A calm, steady life. No pretending. No secrets. And for the first time in years, peace didn't feel fake. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.